Evicting a tenant can seem like a complicated process, but in this video we'll quickly explain the eviction laws in Virginia and outline some simple steps that landlords can take to initiate an eviction. In this video, we'll talk about what the eviction process looks like, how Virginia laws affect evictions, and how to legally remove a non-compliant tenant from a property. Be sure to watch to the end of this video to find a link to a fillable eviction notice. First, what is an eviction? Eviction is the process of legally removing a tenant. Even when a tenant has done something wrong, it's illegal for a landlord to change locks on a property or physically remove a tenant from that property. If a tenant refuses to leave after violating the terms of a lease agreement, a landlord must seek an eviction from the court. Eviction is different from the simple termination of a lease. A landlord can opt not to renew a lease after the specified term has ended. There is no need to involve a court in this process. If a tenant in Virginia fails to pay rent or breaches the terms of a lease agreement in some other way, the landlord can issue an eviction notice. There are 3 versions of this notice to choose from in Virginia. We'll go through each one so you know which one to choose for your specific situation. One is the 5-day notice to quit for non-payment of rent. This gets used when a tenant fails to pay rent on the due date. The 5-day notice to quit tells the tenant to either pay the unpaid rent within 5 days or face an eviction proceeding in court. The 30-day notice to quit is a little more complicated. Basically, if the tenant has breached the conditions of a lease in some other way than not paying rent, for example, by harboring an unauthorized pet, then the landlord can use this notice to give the tenant 21 days to fix the problem. The notice tells the tenant that if the problem isn't resolved within 21 days, then at the end of the 30 days, the tenant will face an eviction action in court. The 30-day notice to quit doesn't require that the landlord be able to prove the tenant has violated the lease agreement. This gets used to terminate a month-to-month lease as a matter of routine. Either the landlord or tenant can use this to let the other party know that the lease will not be renewed at the end of 30 days. The landlord should keep a copy of the notice and serve another copy on the tenant. Proof that the notice was properly delivered will be required later if the matter goes to court, so it's important to obtain this. A good way to obtain proof is to hire a process server or a sheriff to deliver the notice, and then obtain a return of service to prove the documents were properly delivered. If the tenant does not respond to the notice within the allotted time period by doing what the notice instructs, then the landlord may begin the eviction process. The landlord does this by going to the civil division of the General District Court that has jurisdiction in the area where the property is located. To commence the action, the landlord will file a form known as a summons for unlawful detainer with the clerk of the court. This form asks the landlord to explain the facts of the matter and provides a space for the clerk to set a hearing date. Once the form has been filed, the court will set a hearing date. The landlord should have a copy of the summons served on the tenant, and both parties should attend the hearing. If the tenant fails to appear or if the judge rules in the landlord's favor, then the court will return possession of the property to the landlord. At this point, the landlord can file for an order known as a writ of possession. This document authorizes the sheriff to remove the tenant and the tenant's property from the premises should the tenant refuse to vacate. From notices to court documents, we have got everything that you need to get eviction proceedings going in Virginia, and you can access all of them at the link below. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to find other videos about legal topics in business, real estate, and more.